brothers and sisters around the world. Pull up a chair. It's time to get down to the business. I'm your host, Mr. Jason Black. It's a Friday, and there's a few things that are on my mind right now because of recent articles, recent things that we've seen. So, this will be your opportunity to get with some folks who actually know what they're talking about so we can discuss this. And you never know, might be a few surprises show up in the meantime. Now, there was something that I took a look at. You all might have seen this article come out earlier this week. Not really sure how many people really understand what's going on here, but understand you are going to get the insight and analysis you can simply receive nowhere else. You're definitely invited to join us. So you've been seeing this article going around saying that the marriage rate in the United States has fallen to the lowest level on record. Lowest level on record is where it's at right now. So, of course, this is going to beg the question here. Well, what in the world is happening? What in the world is going on? How in the world could this be happening? Why are we seeing this occur? I would suggest to you that it's for reasons that haven't really been properly explained to you, but tonight is going to be. Tonight it will be. So you'll have an opportunity to see that. So, first and foremost, I want you to think about things that you haven't been seeing. I want you to think about things that you haven't been seeing here. And I want to show you why the marriage rate has fallen. I want to show you why that is. And I was thinking to myself, how can I do this in a single picture or a single image? And it just so happens to coincide that they're working on this documentary about Michael. Now, they put out a documentary about Michael Jordan's career. And lo and behold, this story was put out. And I said to myself, there it is, right there. There it is. If you want to know why the marriage rate in the U.S. is where it is right now, is falling clean through the gutter, if you wanted to know why, there it is. In a single picture, in a single photograph, there it is. Right there. 30 years of this, not reality TV, dummy. 30 years of this. If you take a look, that headline right there, that says it all. It really tells you everything. For those of you who remember that far back, if you remember Carmen Electra at the time, she was being heavily promoted. She was, I guess, going to be the successor to Paula Abdul. She had the body, the looks, and everything Hollywood likes to promote. And you remember she was married for, 3 days or something like that to Dennis Rodman? And lo and behold, you ask, well, what in the world ever prompted that to occur? Dennis was considered the bad boy of basketball, and I like bad boys. Now, I want you to listen to that. I want you to listen to that for a moment. I want you to listen. She said, I like bad boys, not past tense, present tense. Not past tense now, present tense. Present tense. Carmen Electra just turned 48 years old last week. Let me say that one more time. She just turned 48 last week. And she is far from an isolated case. This is illustrative and typical. Just turned 48 and is still saying, I like bad boys. 48 years old. Not 28 anymore, 48. 48. Do you really think that she's learned anything from the last 20 years? From the last 20 years. It doesn't end, and it doesn't stop, and it doesn't go away. 20 years later, no matter how many men they slept with, no matter how many diseases, no matter how much other is going on, in her prime years, that was the mindset that she latched on to, and it really doesn't go away. It really doesn't go away. 20 years later, I got to take a look at it some more, and then you see another article that pops up. You see another article that pops up here, and this just happened in the last 24 hours, or in reality, by the way, it really happened well before that. And you take a look at what's going on here. We were told that we were going to be obsolete, remember? We were being told that if we didn't mind our manners, we were going to look up and we were going to be replaced by Zaddy. We were told if we didn't do what we were supposed to be doing, what we were expected of us, why we were going to look up and find ourselves replaced. That's what we were told, remember? Didn't quite work out that way. Didn't quite happen that way. Now, did it? No, it didn't. So what I'm showing you is that after a very long stretch of time where you can track this over the course of years and over the course of decades, you can take a look at these things and see where it really all came out in the end. And by the way, Carmen Electra, 48 years old. Stacey Dash, 53. Stacey Dash, 53. Consider that for just a here. For all the way on the road. There aren't a bunch, marriages are not happening like they used to because there's not a lot of wife material like that available. And that's the thing I want to discuss here tonight. I want to discuss this tonight because while everybody is looking at articles and is trying to make whatever their individual points are, I'm taking a look at the math of it. Because you want there to be an answer to it, you want there to be a solution. And I'm here to help you get to the answer on that. But before you can get to the answer, you have to understand what the problem is. Did you really think that 4 decades of promoting single motherism, strong and independentism, slick at the mouthism, did you really think that all of that was going to happen and there wasn't going to be a penalty to pay? Did you really think that that was going to occur? That you'd really be able to do all this and nothing negative was going to come of it? Now, I've always told you all, you got to watch out for these old niggas. They get beat down and then they just take whatever they can get. You don't need me to explain that to you. I've told you this for years now. They'll take what they can get. But the young fellas are not the same way. The young are not the same way. Males under the age of 40 today, they're not doing what the old cats were doing. They're not doing what the old cats were or are doing. They're not really desperate for sex like that. Some of them might be ill-advised or whatever, but they're not really desperate like that. They're not rushing into it. They're not telling themselves that they're defined by it. And while men have an entire lifetime to make that decision, women don't. Women don't have an entire lifetime to figure out if they're going to get it right. They don't have that option. You've got a very short window to make that happen. And if you latch on to a bunch of bad habits in your late teens or early 20s as a female, you've been lied to. The marriage rates have fallen because females have been lied to for the last 4 decades. They've been lied to. They've been told that you can be 18 years old for the rest of your life. Could you all imagine a store made for men called Forever 21? Think that over for a few moments. Think that over for just a minute here. Could you imagine a store made for men with the name Forever 21? If you want to see what encapsulates how this society has emotionally handicapped and hobbled and spoiled females, spoiled them absolutely rotten, could you imagine a store for men? I'm talking about whether it's clothes, auto parts, boots, automobiles, name anything marketed to men that would tell you Forever 21. Now, and by the way, you go to Forever 21, and yeah, it's some 18-year-olds and 20-somethings in there, but it's also a bunch of 40 and 50-something-year-old women rummaging through that place too, even after bankruptcy. You see a bunch of middle-aged women rummaging through Forever 21 also. Forever 21. You'll always have time. Oh yeah, and what kind of clothes does Forever 21 sell? What type of clothing does Forever 21 sell? Okay, Forever 21, this is for women, Forever 21. What type of clothing do they sell at this place that is going to assist you with your goal of remaining Forever 21? What type of clothes do they sell? Do they sell business suits? Do they sell business casual? What do they sell? Oh, they sell so-called fast casual. A bunch of revealing outfits, a bunch of booty shorts, a bunch of leather and pleather, a bunch of club clothes, a bunch of nightclub outfits. Forever 21, more like forever a hoe. More like forever a hoe. Okay, my point here, folks, is do you understand the store Forever 21 and how many of their customers are actually 21 years old versus how many are 30 and 40 and 50? I want you to think that over. They didn't come up with that name, Forever 21, out of nowhere. They did that, and the customers who go through there not being being much older than 21 years old, that's not accidental either. So, do you understand how badly females have been lied to over the last 4 decades? Nobody is telling men that you can stay 21 years old. As a matter of fact, men get mocked, men get ridiculed, men get made fun of. Hollywood makes movie after movie about that. Very, very few times do they make a movie about women getting older, and even when they do, they tell the women that you getting older and it's gonna be popping. Living single, Friends, Desperate Housewives, Sex in the City. Oh, you're told if you're a female, don't worry, there's gonna be plenty of sex, there's gonna be plenty of men, a bunch of men you want to be having sex with to rumble through. Don't worry. Yeah, girls trip. We can go down the list. When they talk to women, it's about telling women you got forever. They tell women you've got forever. You don't have to wait. You don't have to think. There will be no consequences for what you do. Crank out the bastard kids. You do you. You will get a pass for everything. I'm not going to name all the TV shows and movies because it literally reads like a filmography of Hollywood. That no matter what you do as a woman, you will always have time. You will always be at the pinnacle, and that the pinnacle will never go down. It just moves from left to right. Yeah, even the Golden Girls. You can be a damn senior citizen. Remember Blanche Devereaux? Y'all remember on the Golden Girls? Yeah, there was Sophia, but there was also Blanche. Remember? It never runs out. That's what they've told them. That there are no consequences for whatever you do, and that there will be this ready supply of on point men waiting for the rest of your life. No, nobody ever explained that to you all about Forever 21 and actually had you stop and take a look at it. Forget the red pill. This is the black book. Forget the red pill. This is the black book. So if you've been lied to for 4 decades, that means your mama's messed up in the game, your aunts are messed up in the game, your grandmama's messed up in the game. There's nobody, because they've all been deceived and fooled too. Now nobody knows how to groom you to be wife material. And what is the number one cause of poverty among females? Not having a man. Wait a minute, you thought I was going to say divorce. Wrong. It is not having a man. Not having a man is the reason that most women become and stay poor. What's the reason for that? What is the reason? Why is that the fact that a woman without a man is going to be several more times likely to descend into and stay in poverty? What's the reason for that? I want to get to fundamentals. These are things you cannot outrun. You can't outrun fundamentals. These are social fundamentals. You can't refute them, you can't dispute them, you can't deny them, and you can't outrun them. Why is it that a woman without a man 8 times out of 10 is always going to be poorer than a woman who has a man? And it is not about combination of resources. That ain't it. That ain't it. Understand something for the rest of your lives here, people. I'm trying to educate you about what your parents never did. Bottom line, men are workhorses. A man increases his value one way, by showing how much of a workhorse he is. This may be a little distasteful, but I was studying about thoroughbred horses. Do you all realize that the sale of a prize-winning horse could literally be millions of dollars? But there's something else that's even more so. You can look it up on YouTube. There's a YouTube video called The Most Valuable Liquid on Earth. You can look it up on YouTube. It's a video called The Most Valuable Liquid on Earth, and it's talking about horse semen. That stuff can fetch anywhere from, for a prize-winning thoroughbred, even to freeze it, it can run anywhere from 100,000 to 600,000 or more. Now, I'm talking about if you get it frozen. If you are a workhorse and a producer, that in and of itself is valuable. Incredibly valuable. No, for those of you who did not know, and yes, they did talk about stud fees, but by the way, you can get hundreds of thousands of dollars for milliliters, for very small amounts, to be able to breed those horses, to breed prize-winning horses. These companies make millions of dollars freezing the DNA of these studs. They make millions of dollars doing it. Okay, but what I'm telling you here is that as men, hey, if you want to be class clowns, this isn't the place for that. You're supposed to be learning something. There's a reason why a bunch of you guys listening right now, yeah, the females are not submitting to you, but you ain't exercising any power either. If you're not doing that, there's a reason why you don't stay focused very well. The problem isn't that you're the class clown in the chat room. The problem is you also a clown in real life. The females don't just need to grow up. You need to grow up too. So if you're trying to test out your comedy skills, just understand the joke is you, nigga. The joke is you. By the way, as if we don't see you. By the way, the joke is you. A man is judged by his ability to be a workhorse. And the better a workhorse you are, the more productive a workhorse you are, the more powerful you are. Dennis Rodman was not a, quote, bad boy because he got tatted up and pierced up and whatnot. He was a bad boy because he was making millions of dollars in the NBA. Do you all think if Dennis Rodman were a third stringer making $100,000 in the NBA, do you all think that any female anywhere ever would have paid him the time of day, complete with his hair being colored, with the facial piercings, with the tattoos? Folks, does anybody think Dennis Rodman would have gotten a second look from any woman anywhere in America? And by the way, he said so in his book that he wrote. Remember? He said this in his book. He said in his book, he knew that most of these females, they wouldn't really, he was talking about black women, but he said most of these females wouldn't talk to me if I wasn't successful. Call it what you will. Dennis was not delusional and was not deceived about what it is and what it was that made the women gravitate to him. There were a bunch of other guys who had colored hair, if you all don't remember. Dennis wasn't the only one with colored hair. So it wasn't that. It wasn't swag. Dennis wasn't the only one with tattoos. It wasn't swag. The piercings made him more eccentric. Dennis wasn't the only one with colored hair and tattoos who rode a motorcycle. Dennis was tatted up, colored up, oh yeah, and successful. All those other things become worthless if you're not a success. He was a workhorse who could produce. Oh yeah, and what happened to the women's interest in him as soon as he no longer was able to produce? Come on now. What happened to Dennis's appeal to the women, not about money, but when he was no longer able to produce? You see, you can still be in the NBA and not making a whole bunch of money and still be in the NBA. But did you notice as soon as he wasn't able to produce anymore, there was no more appeal? The women reward a producer and call it a bad boy if they're smart. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't stupid. He knew what they were there for. He knew what increased his power. He understood that. Somebody in the chat room said dating is unfair for men. That is incorrect and wrong. That is incorrect and wrong. You have been taught, first of all, I don't deal with dating. That's the first thing. I don't deal with dating. I don't discuss dating. I don't really, folk mention it to me. I don't really talk about dating. I talk about power dynamics. Male, female power dynamics. That's what I discuss. I like to discuss economic power dynamics, but I also like to discuss male-female power dynamics. Most of you have been taught to deal with females from a position of begging, from a position of submission. You've been taught to approach women. You have not been taught how to attract women. Dennis Rodman did not have to approach women. Dennis Rodman didn't have to chase women. Dennis Rodman increased his value in order to attract women. Inversely, women don't chase men. They work on attracting men, not chasing them. They focus on attracting men, not dating them. And where most of you guys in your red pill philosophies fail because you are in fact being groomed to be beta males and don't realize it. You've got somebody trying to teach you how to chase women and pursue women as opposed to attract them. Then you have to get into, okay, what is it that attracts women? You don't get to decide what that is. Now, Now, if you understand, okay, I want to attract women, at that point you have to recognize, oh, I don't get to decide what it is that attracts them. I don't get to do that. That's not your choice. It is your job to understand what attracts women, but it's not your job to try to dictate. It's not your job to try to dictate it. Not your job. So let's just understand here. This is about understanding why it is that the rates have fallen. And I want the women to listen tonight because a lot of you, I wonder how many women listening are going to be honest with themselves. Because remember, Carmen was making these decisions back in her 20s. Stacy was making these decisions back in her 20s, back in the clueless days. That video that everybody is talking about right now with Claudia Jordan and Vivica Fox and Silena Johnson, all these chicks are in their 40s and late 40s, talking about what they don't like in their prospects with men. But none of them are talking about what they were doing 20 years ago and who they were wanting to keep company with 20 years ago. They don't discuss that because they really did believe that they were entitled to make whatever choices they wanted to, and that the society would simply give them a pass, quote unquote, when you're done having your fun. And that is the deadliest lie and delusion that has been fed to females. When you're done having fun, I'll get back to it then. When I get ready to. I'll take care of that tomorrow. And what they found out is there is no tomorrow. There isn't a tomorrow anymore. And here's the really crazy part. The really crazy part isn't that there aren't enough women to go around. The crazy part is that there are not enough productive males to go around anymore. That's the real issue. There are not enough of them because the women all want to aspire to whoever the best producer is, but there's not enough of them to go around. So y'all are having to double and triple up. You see, this is a pump that you have to keep primed. This is a pump that has to stay primed. You can't check out of being a desirable female for the first 30 years of your life and then say, I'll check back with y'all when I'm 30 or 40. At that point, it becomes a buyer's market. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're not going to be able to check out between the ages of 18 and 32. Let me go have some bastard kids and I'll level up later. We've heard every type of stupid, ridiculous, moronic, brain-dead ass cliche tossed at us. Ladies, stop talking about leveling up. Most of you can't do it now. I'm just being honest with you. If nobody else is going to tell you the truth, I'm just being honest. Most of you cannot level up. Either because you're ragged out or because you've aged out. You came from dysfunctional families, and rather than fight the dysfunction, you mimicked it and repeated it. And now the results are going to be worse. You see, your mother back in the 70s could sit up here, have 3 bastard kids, and find some simp-ass jackass who would come along and scoop her up and play protector and provider and couldn't wait to be stepdaddy. Okay, here's the problem. That percentage of males willing to do that was small even back then. And today it is smaller than ever. So you're all out here fighting for the males who will tolerate whatever baggage you've accumulated because you've been taught that you're entitled to rack up as much baggage as you want to. And there'll be a man who can't wait to take on you and your baggage. So you've all been fighting for an ever decreasingly large piece of pie. The piece of the pie you've all been fighting over has been getting progressively smaller over the years. Every year it gets smaller. And even to the extent that there's still something for you to choose from the pie, it's not, the pie is no longer anything you even really want to eat. You want that alpha producer. But let's just say it like it is. When you take a look in his eye, you're looking for that Khal Drogo look. You're looking for that guy who's got that look of hunger and tenacity and that he's in the game. And when he gets up in the morning, he's not just a producer, he's a competitor. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that guy who, like Sylvester Stallone, got the eye of the tiger. That's what you're looking for as a woman. That's what you're looking for. You see, that's what Carmen was attracted to in Dennis. Even though he was one of the lesser competitive guys in the NBA, when he was on the court, compared to the guys who couldn't make it to the league, Dennis was a competitor. You saw that look in his eye. He was never on Jordan's level. He was never on Pippen's level. He was never on Shaq's level, but he was in the game. He was in the game. So she was able to at least bag one of the studs who was actually on the track, running the laps, and in the game. She was at least able to get one of the competitors that was actually out there. She was actually able to do that. Do you think that she would have been with him if she didn't think that she had a competitor? So as women, you all are looking for that alpha competitor. You're looking for that, all of you are looking for that guy who is able to compete on that level. You're looking for that guy who gives you a good look because he's an ultra competitor. Problem, you got fewer ultra competitors today than you've ever had. You've got fewer ultra competitors today than you've ever had. So what happens is, yeah, you're able to march back into the sexual marketplace after your foibles and misadventures in your 20s, the babies, the STDs, the student loan debt, the messed up credit. You all do realize that 2/3 of student loan debt in this country is held by females, right? Ladies, it's time to have a come to Jason moment. 2/3 of the females in this country, 2/3 of the student debt in this country is held by females. 2/3 of it. 2/3. You're not going to be able to outrun these things. You are going to need a workhorse and a producer. Because as men are able and willing psychologically and physically. We can do every single job that a female can do and a bunch that she cannot do. And the ones that she can't do, that's going to be something that you need. But you need a man who is going to be able to produce. And right now, that's not what you have. You're sitting there hoping that you can re-enter the sexual marketplace and grab you one of those alpha male producers, and instead you end up with a nigga making 50,000 with some benefits, looking like Cedric the Entertainer and talking like him. There's no alpha in him. He ain't competing. Brothers, you can't win if you're not a competitor. And no matter what delusions the women might adopt, you can't win if you're not a competitor, and she's looking for a winner. If you're not competing, by definition, you'll never have the opportunity to become a winner. You gotta cross that hurdle first. So they end up fighting over the most productive beta male that they can get and call it an alpha. The same way a lot of you dudes listening to me right now who are unproductive and not really achieving very much, you know, the way that you take a look at that size 16 and say how fine she is because that's the best you can do. You're grabbing that size 16 ragged out Lizzo talking about how fine she is, just like the females are grabbing this mediocre beta male and trying to call him an alpha. It's like putting wings on a cat. It doesn't look cute and he can't fly anyway. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The reason that marriage is at the low levels it is today is because we taught females that having sex was the same thing as having a relationship. How many of you all know or have talked to females who have told you that they've had babies by somebody that they're in a, quote, committed relationship with? How many of you have females who tell you that marriage don't matter, that a ring doesn't matter? How many of you have seen females who say, don't worry, he's going to marry me later? How many of you have seen that? How many of you have heard that? How many of you have lived that? They're operating under the assumption that being able to get a man in bed is going to be just as easy as getting him to the altar will be just as easy as getting him into bed, or that getting him into bed is the same as getting him to the altar. Knowing that this didn't work for your grandmama, it didn't work for your mother, it didn't work for your aunts, it didn't work for your sisters, let me go ahead and try this anyway. I'll do this anyway. Folks, you've heard the saying that the reason that men are not getting married today is because marriage is a benefit to women, not to men. Here's the problem. That statement is actually, for the most part, accurate. Marriage is a benefit to a woman. Marriage creates a safe environment where she is taken care of by a protector and provider to facilitate her more easily and safely being able to have children and nurture a family. If you remove that shelter from her, then she goes out into the world attempting to achieve that which is A, unnatural, and B, unfeasible, to become a protector and provider. A woman can be many things. She cannot be a father. She cannot be a protector and provider. We can sit here and wink, wink, and nod each other all we damn well want to, but the student loan debt numbers, the credit card debt numbers, the housing debt numbers, the low credit score numbers all bear out everything I'm saying. You're going to have one of these competitors. If you don't, your life is going to be very, very hard and very, very difficult. You're gonna need a workhorse. Your value as a woman is going to be decided by your ability to get a workhorse. It's going to be decided by that, by your ability or by your inability. I didn't say if marriage is good for men and women. I said that it benefits women more than men. Listen for comprehension. Marriage has positive things for men and women, but there is an outsized advantage for females in marriage. Marriage has an outsized benefit that cannot be replicated or replaced. That's the difference. That's the difference. And without that, the reason why this marriage number matters so much is because marriage numbers going down, that's the same as me being able to take a look and see high school graduation rates. As you all know, they decide to build prisons in places wherever the high school graduation rate drops, wherever the dropout rate is highest. That's where you build your prisons. That's where you build your county jails. That's where you build your penitentiaries. You build those where the marriage rates, you build those where your graduation rates are at their lowest. Well, guess what? If you want to know where the impoverished women are, then you're going to be able to track marriage rates. Take a look and see where the marriage rates have fallen off, and the women will be in poverty. The women will be in poverty. There won't be a choice in the matter because there are no workhorses to help them. That's the difference. So tonight, I'm going to take a little bit more time and I'm going to look into this because I want you all to have a different future if you choose it. You have an opportunity to make different choices than what you've seen, but right now, this is not going to be a good thing. Especially for the young. Because there are some of you who have not made these mistakes yet. There are some of you that have not repeated the process yet. There are some of you who have not fallen into the trap just yet. And these will be difficult things to hear because you've been operating under the assumption that your mom knows best. I'm telling you right now, few things could be further from the truth. Few things could be further from the truth. And as young people and young women, I don't want you to fall for that either. I want you to understand that you've been lied to. You've been lied to and you've been misled. I'd like to see something different for you happen, but we can't count on your mothers and your grandmothers to tell you because they don't know. We can't count on them to point it out to you because they don't know. You have to wait for somebody like me to say it to you because most of you are operating with family members and whatnot who really can't tell you. I'd like to say it's the blind leading the blind, but it's the blind and the deaf and the mute and the limbless And they've taken young women who could have been better and could have done more and leaving them to their own devices. They've left you to your own devices and said, well, let's see how that works out for you. And the marriage rate has fallen. And the problem here is your grandmama might have been okay, but you got to understand, by the time you met your grandmother, she had already given up. She had already given up. She had already surrendered. She was already done. She was already done. Your mother got messed up in the game, and by the time you show up, grandma is already aged out. She's 60, 70 years old, although I do know sometimes there's these 30-year-old grandmothers, but your grandmama is already in her 60s. She's aged out. She's done. Whatever was going to happen with men, that's it. Whatever was going to happen with men, that's you're done. That's it. That's it. She's not competing. And your mother is unable. Your mother's unable. She doesn't understand. So I'm going to see about putting this together a little bit differently here. I want to thank everyone who has joined us on this broadcast tonight. I've got somebody that I want to speak to here, and I've invited them on the program because I did want to talk to them. I'm going to see if I can get that to occur, and if I can, that would be great. This young lady right here, and I mean the one in the foreground, not the background. I want to see if I can get a hold of her. She's agreed to talk to me. I'll see if I can get a hold of them because I want to find out what's going on there. Give us a lot of answers to questions on this, and you're more than welcome here. So I'm going to sign off for a little bit. For those of you who are members here of our patron, because I don't want to get flagged for anything, I'm going to see if we can try to deal with that. And we're going to address a number of different questions because I think this is a quintessential example of exactly what we're talking about. For those of you who are members of our patron, you can join us for that. For those of you who are not, we'll let you know how it went. In the meantime, this concludes this portion of tonight's broadcast of The Business. I'm your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. J.
Is Raymond Two Hawks Watson.